everyone, this is Isra Yusuf and I'm going to explain for you the difference between the active and passive voice. This is actually an English lesson for grade 8 at Finnish Systems schools. The outcomes, what the students are expected to have or to understand when this lesson ends, actually they are supposed to understand the passive and active voice, to be able to understand the text, to analyze the text, and to be able to use the passive and active voice. This is actually the outcomes of this lesson. Now let's talk about the difference between the active and passive voice. In the active voice, we have the subject of the sentence that performs, which performs the action expressed by the verb. So in the active voice, you are having the do of the action, or who did the action, in the position of the subject. So you have the do of the action in the position of the subject. For example, Kristen made pancakes for breakfast. Who did the pancakes? Who made the pancakes? It is actually Kristen. And Kristen here in the position of the noun, which is in the position of the subject. This is actually the active voice. You have the subject, the do of the action, and it is followed by the verb. The do of the action, and it is followed by the verb. In the passive voice, the action is expressed by the verb, which is performed upon the subject in this sentence. So you have the noun at first, and you would have you have the noun or the do of the action in the position of the object. This is actually the difference between the passive and active voice. In passive voice, you have the pancakes, which is the object of this sentence, in the position of the subject. It is actually which is the verb performed upon it, pancakes in the position of the subject. But the Kristen here in the position of the object, which is the do of the action, it is in the position of the object. So sometimes the noun that performs the action is included in the sentence, and sometimes it is not. So in passive voice, you might have the do of the action and the noun of the sentence. You might have it in the sentence. You might not have it. For example, the pancakes were placed on the kitchen table. Here in this sentence, the subject or the noun of the sentence is not mentioned in the sentence. So this is actually one case of the passive voice. The passive voice might have the noun, might have the do of the action, and might not have the do of the action or the noun of the action. Now let's look, here you have the active and passive voice. You have examples on active and passive voice and the tenses, and you should know, students, that the active and passive voice might come or can come in any verb tense. It might come in present, present continuous, past simple, and present perfect, and so on. So it might become in any verb tenses. There's an examples, and reporters write in news reports. The first example, which is written in the present tense, you have reporters, which is the do of the action, which is here in the place of the subject, in the position of the subject. And the news reports, which is the object of the sentence. In the passive, you might say that news reports are in the position of the subject, which is the object, which is the verb performed upon it. And you have the subject, which is the reporters, in the position of the object. This is actually an example of the active and passive voice. Here you have how to change the verb tenses from the active and passive voice. You should be familiar with the how to change from passive into active and how to change from active into passive. You should know how to change from active to passive either ways. And you might have, like as I told you, that you might have any verb tenses. So it is actually, you should be familiar with it, you should memorize it, because you're going to have a question in the exam, which is to change from active to passive voice, or to change from passive into active voice. So you should be familiar with these rules, and here you would have, if you have present simple, you should change it into the passive, into is plus verb 3, which is the past participle of the verb, which is the verb of the verb, and so on. So you should be familiar with these tenses, and you should memorize it. Now, to use the passive and active voice, why do we have like active and passive voice? And when the writer uses active or passive voice. Actually, active voice, it makes the meaning very clear. We use the active voice to make the meaning very clear. In sentences that have active voice, they are shorter and clearer. So the active voice keeps the sentence from becoming too wordy or too complicated. So writers use active voice to make that sentence shorter, to make it clearer, to have the subject mentioned and so on, to make it like a sentence which is clear. Using the passive voice, writers use the passive voice, and the passive voice sentences might not be clear as the active voice. So it often creates awkward sentences. And the reason the writer chooses to use it is that they are focusing, they are asking for more attention from the readers. And in some cases, the writers might want to leave the noun that performs an action so that they can keep the readers guessing and so on. Okay, so this is actually the reason why they are using the passive voice, so that they can make the readers they can have the reader's attention, and they can make keep the readers guessing and to reflect on their reading. To change the passive to active, I told you you should identify the noun which is in the. You should identify the noun. You should identify the doer of the action, who did the action, and so on, so that you can change it into its tense, and you should be familiar with the tenses, which is the correct tenses. So actually, the first thing you should do is to identify the noun and to put it in the position either if you are changing into active or if you are changing into passive. There's another example of the passive and active voice, and the tenses are on each. And I told you guys we have talked about the analyzing the text, how to analyze the text. You should know the title and introduction. What is the topic you are talking about? What is the main idea you are writing about? And you have a public paragraphs, which contains of subtopics and evidences and might have facts, details, or examples. Each paragraph has its own fact, detail, or example. And the last paragraph, which is the conclusion, which is you are going to summarize what you said in the previous paragraphs. This is actually how we're analyzing a text according to this form. The lesson has ended. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget that you have a homework on page 159. Stay safe. This is your teacher, Isra Yusuf, and the sample answers are below. Check your homework after you do it. Thank you and bye-bye.